a presentation from our subcommittee that's been working on the Pine Grove Square idea for a number of years, and a presentation by our subcommittee and staff, as well as our consultants that have been working on this project. So they are giving this to the rest of the council, 3 of whom were not on the subcommittee, so we are just being advised and informed about this this committee report and this project and this suggestion for a direction in which the city may move. So that we are not making a decision to build Pine Grove Square tonight. We're not making a decision to create an RFP to find somebody to build Pine Grove Square tonight. This is really our first big presentation of the concepts that the committee has been talking about. So I would urge everyone to think about the big picture items of what this concept addresses. And part of what it addresses is economic vitalization of our downtown. It addresses housing issues, and it addresses to some degree parking issues. And I know that some of these are issues that people have. So I would like everyone to think about that this is not a cast in concrete idea, and that we not get into the mode, as we have seen happen in Sebastopol so many times. We can count all the CVS's and the Laguna Vistas and the downtown plans and the Northeast plan, and we can name all of them when our town gets really bifurcated and mad at each other about the issue. So let's start listening to the information we're going to hear tonight, and then we will all be able to weigh in and share what we think about it, and there will be plenty of opportunity to measure the pros and cons of this proposal. So I just like to ask everybody to listen to each other, and then we can weigh in with good thoughts and good advice to the city about how to proceed. So I'm just asking that of you, but no one needs to get too worried, because we're not making any big decisions right now. What we are deciding tonight is how to proceed, and it says something about this on the agenda. It talks about, after we have all this information, our first item is to confirm project goals. So the city council is going to be talking about what are the goals of this project, where might it go in the future, what do we need to do if we're going to do anything, etc. We're talking about how to perform additional community outreach and solicit input. That's what you all are doing here tonight. We're discussing whether we should be and how we should be asking for potential developers to be involved with this if we want to go forward with it. But first we're going to listen, and then we're going to comment. So just wanted to say that first. So now I would like to ask staff to move forward, staff and the committee to make their comments and their presentation, and then we will ask the consultants.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This staff report is presented by the City Council's Pine Grove Square Committee. To, I guess, repeat some of the words that I just heard from the Mayor, I should first point out what the Pine Grove Square proposal is not. It is not a quote-unquote building project. There's nothing in front of the council this evening which proposes any specific project on the site. The recent work done by the committee has been to analyze the development potential of city-owned property located in downtown Sebastopol. Any actual project proposed for the site would be in the future and would bring with it significant public review and the ideas and innovations of the community and the developer. The committee has reported to the full council on 4 previous occasions. Our consultant, Linda Herman, began work about a year ago, initially reviewing information about the site and assisting the committee in engagement of adjoining business and property owners. After the last report in October 2016, the City Council directed its committee to have a full market analysis done for the site, an analysis of its development potential for housing or commercial or a combination of housing and commercial uses. The analysis was to include a complete financial feasibility assessment of development costs, income potential, and project alternatives for the highest and best use of the site. The cost in this last fiscal year to engage adjoining business and property owners, select the consultant to do the feasibility analysis, and the cost of the consultant's work through this evening has been approximately $74,000. Tonight, the committee will report back to the council on that work. After remarks by the committee members, you will hear a detailed presentation from our 2 consultants. The action requested this evening from the council is to approve the next phase of this work, which includes the following: to perform additional community outreach to obtain public input and address community concerns and questions, to engage the owners of 3 privately owned parcels in the area to discuss possible inclusion in the development of the site, and to engage in informal discussions with a number of local developers to ascertain their views on the development. The committee began its work over 3 years ago as a search for a new site for a relocated city hall. That search evolved into an analysis of the potential for a public-private partnership to develop a city-owned property for that purpose or other uses. Attention soon focused on the downtown site presently under consideration, which, as mentioned in the staff report, has been considered for development for some time prior to any work of this committee. As the work continued, it became apparent that relocation of City Hall to that site was not really viable. At the same time, due in part to significant work done by the Lantern Citizen Group working to expand our library, it became apparent that the best idea may be for the library and City Hall to remain where they are and work cooperatively towards a sharing of resources, such as an enlarged meeting room and office spaces. For the downtown site, the committee and consultants have concluded that the most economically viable and public beneficial use of the land may be a mixed-use market-rate development with some ground floor commercial space with a majority of the floor area devoted to residential units, of which 20% would be affordable housing. Such use creates downtown living space where residents could live and shop downtown. The revenue to the city from such a plan would be significant and could be put to any number of important public uses, including an expanded library and civic center. So the City Council this evening is asked to hear the report of the committee and the city's consultants, Linda Herman and Reed Kawahara of Kaiser Marston Associates, to ask questions and to hear from the public, and for the council to then authorize the work of the committee continuing into phase 3, which, as I mentioned earlier, is to engage the community and local developers. The cost of this next phase is estimated at $30,000. Any additional work to follow this phase would be returned to the council for further review and approval. So that's my introduction to the topic. This matter has been in the hands of the Pine Grove Square Committee. Our 2 members are Vice Mayor Slater and Councilmember Gurney, and I believe they will have some comments, following which we will hear from our consultants, as I mentioned. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, would you like to?
Sure. So first, I'd like to mention where the name Pine Grove Square comes from. Lots of people know, a lot of people don't know. Pine Grove was the original name of Sebastopol. It was changed to Sebastopol fairly early in its history, but it's an historically based name. The idea for Pine Grove Square has existed for a long time, as our city manager mentioned. In some form, it was discussed in the Downtown Plan of 1990, in the 1994 General Plan. Councilmember Gurney and former Mayor Guy Wilson held a series of meetings titled Center the City in 2009 and 2010, and the idea is discussed in their report. This project is also mentioned in our new general plan, which was adopted last fall. The idea keeps coming up because I feel it is a good one. We have an opportunity to solve some problems, address some long-term needs, and vastly improve what is widely considered to be a delightful and authentic downtown district. You will hear the phrase highest and best use many times tonight in our presentation for good reason. We are trying to determine the best use for the site and how it can best serve our entire community. Land use decisions are one of the few things the council has final control over, and the fact that much of the land the Pine Grove Square project is studying is owned by the city, which really means all of us. And that also means that it's, as Dr. John Kramer, rest in peace, would have said, it's part of our commons. It also means the city has the ultimate say over the use of this property. It's within our hands. The committee is certainly aware that there are existing conditions which need to be responded to and respected. The West County Museum, which is on the National Registry of Historic Places, is a gem, and this project could allow for greater office, workspace, and storage, so the mission of the Western Sonoma County Historical Society can be enhanced. The beautiful WPA Sebastopol Post Office is right across the street. The Petaluma and Santa Rosa Railway Powerhouse Building, now featuring the Hot Monk Tavern, which is also on the National Registry of Historic Places, is directly adjacent. And there are other properties and existing uses within the Pine Grove Square study area that will need to be discussed. The opportunities for these special businesses, organizations, and property owners are real, and I hope our proposal will be met with open, creative minds. Architectural sensitivity to the existing fabric of our downtown, and especially to the existing historic features, is of utmost importance to me. While we now allow 3- and 4-story buildings in our downtown, this absolutely doesn't mean 3 and 4 stories everywhere. The allowance is for creative designers to maximize the use and benefit of a site while responding to and respecting the existing built environment. In its current state as Pine Grove Square, the project has evolved. Originally, it was thought the project may accommodate a new civic center and perhaps a new library facility, as the city manager mentioned. As the committee's work has gone on, with the help of our consultants, other higher and better uses have come into focus. My participation with the Housing Committee has highlighted the need for additional workforce and senior housing, and as this project has progressed, the possibility of a substantial address of that need has been identified. The type of housing under consideration is not one found currently in Sebastopol. Small urban units in the heart of a vital downtown district. This project has the ability to provide housing for seniors and low to middle income people in a model that brings efficiency and greater density to an established part of town. The project location puts housing only a couple of blocks from medical providers, the library, the senior center, 3 grocery stores, and many restaurants, cafes, and shops. Also remember, in Sebastopol, the downtown is the location with the greatest number of jobs, with more on the way. To complete our city grid of streets, the extension of Willow to Petaluma Avenue allows for greatly improved vehicular circulation and an additional block face for ground floor retail. The downtown plan and 2 generations of the general plan have identified this site as a location for a project akin to Pine Grove Square. And I feel this project will be a catalyst for other projects, bringing other opportunity sites into the discussion. To take the next step does nothing to change the existing conditions. It only allows the committee to continue with data gathering, coordination, and conversations. This project has the opportunity to knit together parts of our downtown and create the optimal urban form with highest densities at the core, tapering to less dense near the edge. Mixed uses, mixed incomes, mixed ages, and a more vital, inclusive, adaptable, and successful Sebastopol are what the Pine Grove Square Committee envisions. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Gurney.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, and to our city manager. My subcommittee members have said many of the remarks that I was going to make tonight, so you may hear some things a third time. I think importantly, if we're repeating ourselves, it's because it's very important to us, and also we're making an effort to make sure you are up to date on what the business is in front of the council tonight, because we have gotten pretty clear messages from our community that there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern, a lot of distress about a situation that is being misperceived. So I want to just make sure you know that the business before the council tonight is a request for $30,000 to continue the exploration of a concept, not a project, not a proposal, but just an idea to look at possibilities for a property that the city owns. So this is not a discussion and review of a proposal. It's not a discussion and review of a project because there are none yet put together. So it's not a decision to take away parking, and it's not a decision to demolish the chamber building. We have not gone down that road that far yet, and we don't know that we even will. Our goal tonight is just to see what the city could get by pursuing the next steps that our consultant is going to be suggesting. This project, see, I did it too. This concept has evolved over time. For me, it started 9 years ago, July 2008, during the political discussion, a campaign year about the Northeast Area Plan. I realized in that long and arduous public process, how frustrating it was for our city council, our city staff, and our community to be at the mercy of a developer and a property owner. In that situation, we had been made a lot of promises of what we would get from that project. Most of those didn't come through. So I had this idea, why not just switch the roles and have the city be the developer and have the city develop property that we own outright? How about that? What an interesting concept to explore with the elected new member of the council, Guy Wilson. Through my term as mayor, he was vice mayor. We held a number of public forums, 6 of them. Those were reported to the council in January 2010. Many of the people who have emailed me about this, I provided that background material so that you know this has been around as a discussion point for quite a long time. That's just where I started in July 2009. So there's a concern this has happened under the radar, people haven't known about it, and the reality is it's been in the public for a long, long time. And I've been one of these flag wavers saying, hey, let's talk about this and see where we can go. So the Center of the City subcommittee changed with election results. We had council member Slater elected, and he came on board with the subcommittee as council member Wilson left. We explored all of the city-owned lots, and include parking lots and the city-owned properties. We even looked at some, I would say, privately owned lots like schools and churches, you know, where there was some big acre land that we might build on. Ultimately, the subcommittee made a request to the council that was publicly agendized, and as our city manager has reported, we requested funding to gain the services of a consultant because we realize as a subcommittee, we're not developers. We don't really know how to approach this. So we wanted professional help. There were numerous times that came before the public for comment. We're here again tonight asking for a decision from the council to move forward, to continue the conversation, to see what we might get. I think this is really a defining moment for our community. We have a far-sighted concept here. We're looking at sort of a fascinating inquiry with a lot of possibilities for our future, and we don't even know what they all are. We have no guarantees. We don't know who's going to respond when we get more down into the weeds with an RFP, a request for proposal. We don't know if our needs are going to be met by that proponent. And I got to get back to that issue of control. We, our community, has control over our commons and our publicly owned property. That is one of the certainties, our control. Another certainty is that we have a public process that's very robust. Look, we have engaged citizens. Almost every one of you raised your hands, except for the swimmers out there, that you were here tonight to come and talk about this with us. We have always a number of meetings. Nothing goes under the radar around here. Everything is very publicly vetted. In fact, we allow public comment on every issue, not just public hearings as we experienced earlier this evening. A third guarantee, we are a very creative community. We attract creative designers. Look at our recent experience with the Diamond Lumber site. That started with a community forum that I initiated to assess community needs. It went on to a marketing brochure for that property that attracted a developer who then went through their own community process, and in 2.5 years were able to come in with a design and get a permit. And that's called the hotel project, but it's actually much more, isn't it? It's a hotel, a hostel, a restaurant, art space, maker space, public parks, 2nd story, 4th story, public art, and a paseo that will get people into the Barlow, as well as public seating. Let's look at this too, creative people. The council has received an email from Harvey Charnovsky. I was hoping Harvey was here tonight. I don't see him though. A founding person with the Center for the Arts. Harvey's response to this was, "You're taking away my parking." But I'm a developer. He did Woodstone Corners down past the, I think of it as a Holiday Inn right there in Cooper Road. And Harvey said, "I'd be interested in a 4-story project." We got a guy thinking out of our box. A 4-story project. Now that doesn't mean a big monolithic, necessarily big monolithic rectangle. But what he was thinking was, he could build 3 stories in some design above a podium and let the parking stay on the ground level. There's a creative solution. The council, well, the subcommittee members at least are also receiving emails from parking designers. One fellow who contacted us suggested that we could use something I think he called robotic parking. I think of it as that elevator parking or the stacked parking or the squishy parking, you know, where the cars are there and there's not a lot of room. So I don't know the technicalities of it, but I'm hearing a creative person saying, "I got an answer for you if parking's an issue in your town." Okay. Well, there are other ways to do it than just one level, just car after car after car. So I have another certainty I want to share with you, and that is that with our community process, our results are always better than we expect. I cited the hotel example, and I want to cite something to CVS. I've received a number of compliments about that project, comments about that project. I think other council members have heard it's not as awful as we thought. So that was a painful process, but I'm pleased that now people are changing their experience and dealing with the reality and saying, well, you know, we worked hard on that and we have a pretty good result. We have something better than we thought. There are 2 very troubling certainties for me. One is our housing crisis. Our mayor and vice mayor have been working on the housing subcommittee. They have, I believe, another meeting next Monday, and will be reporting back to the council later in August or September, whatever is their timeline, on what they've learned through that work on housing. The other troubling certainty, I think, is our change in demographics, where our population is aging. And that indicates we will have more non-drivers, more, I think you say less ambulatory, I hope I got that right, where living downtown on the flat land, as flat a land as we have, would be a great benefit for them to be able to access businesses, access community, enjoy coffee, be outside, and not be isolated up on a hill or somewhere where they can't get around easily. So these are verified, these certainties that I'm talking about, through Economic Development Specialist report that just came out last week, was in our council mailboxes today. We are the second smallest of 9 cities in the county. Our median income, the previous year was the lowest of all of the 9 cities. This year we're number 4. In other words, the median income here is going up. We are having more and more wealthy people come here. Our house price, our housing price, that median price, is staying up there. We're in the number 3 position, Healdsburg, Sonoma, Sebastopol. These are just our demographics. So those demographics are key, I think, to read into the possibilities that we want to write into what becomes a proposal or a project. We have also on the horizon some new legislation that Vice Mayor Slater pointed out, SB 540 by Senator Roth, which is creating a workforce housing zone as a possibility that might address some of those demographics. This is a very urban site that we have, right? We've got it between our 2 one-way streets. By virtue of its position physically in our little universe here, as an urban site, it allows for density in its design so that we might be able to afford to build as a developer a project that will address the housing situation, smaller units at a lower price. And if we get a significantly sized project, we will then be able to have a significant number under our 20% inclusionary ordinance. So the subcommittee sees some great opportunity here. We also want to respect the historical nature of that area of town. And in our discussions, Vice Mayor Slater and I have always sort of drawn this line, a horizontal line against that, across that diagonal of the big block, from the post office to the museum, that's the depot, to Hop Monk, which is the powerhouse building, to the old Chamber of Commerce building on the corner. Those are very important physical elements that we would ask any designer to enhance and certainly to honor. We've moved very slowly and economically throughout this process. I mean, starting with the meetings that Guy Wilson and I did, no cost there. We're not experts, but our job was to talk to people. We've just increased incrementally on our work. And in this process, we got one very insightful idea, which I want to credit Vice Mayor Slater for, as he mentioned. That's the extension of Willow Street through this block. It has the advantage of taking a really long block and making it 2 moderately sized blocks. And it does that and creates more of a grid for our downtown so that we're not just like one little block of Main Street and one little block heading the other direction. Also, it's going to, in mitigating that traffic, connect the Redada Trail to Ives Park, basically, through Willow Arshero Road. We're interested in populating the central core of downtown. I want to share with you all these important points because we've talked about them in subcommittee, and it's yours to ask questions about tonight or consider tonight or reject. We'd like to keep the lights on so our sidewalks don't roll up at 6 or 6:30 at night. We want to revitalize the South Main Street area. Now we have one side of a block and a dead zone that literally goes from the western wall of Benedetti Tire across the CVS parking lot, across Hop Monk, across this asphalt zone, across Main Street, across the Taqueria parking lot, across the High Street parking lot, to the front door of the Center for the Arts. You can see from Benedetti's to the Center for the Arts, all you have to do is look over the car tops. There is nothing there. There's no building, there's nothing happening, but cars sitting there. They don't contribute to our economy. This property gives us no revenue. The parking is free. We don't ask people to pay in an assessment district or anything. We have no revenue, but cars just sitting there, quietly waiting for people to come back. So, we think too that this project in revitalizing that area is going to create work for an economic development specialist person in our future. For folks who were here in earlier discussions about the budget, it was a comment from the budget subcommittee that We'd like that economic development work to be done. The council's actually been talking about that probably for 4 or 5 years. We have also potential work that a housing advocate could do. We also have the volunteer work right now that's done by the small steering committee of Cheetah Slow with great generosity to the city. The suggestion was maybe all that will be wrapped in one. It's not going to be happening tonight. It's not an issue tonight for discussion. And the suggestion is that that might be a topic that will come up in this next fiscal year for the budget that's 18-19. So I say we go for liveliness, for vitality, and not be fearful. And we put the $30,000 to good work. It's just an exploration. Like I say, we have control all along the way. We can say stop, no, or adjust. I'd like us to see what we can get. And as the mayor said, I'm thanking her for those opening remarks, it's important that you stay with us and we're all updated with the same information so that folks are not speaking from misinformation, misrepresentation, or misperception. Because why? If we do nothing tonight, if we reject this, then nothing's gonna happen, and the people who want more parking are gonna get no more parking, and it's not gonna happen. We will go nowhere. For people, for instance, of the Historical Society, if the diagram sees the railroad car removed, it doesn't mean that car is going to be removed. That's not a diagram about a project. But look, the diagram itself has some nice open space. Well, what if that open space, by some project proponent, was put around the railroad car, and suddenly we had a historical centerpiece that reflected our history with the train down Maine, and our apple growing. So I really want to make sure when you speak to us that you don't speak against your own interests. We would like to hear what people want to say that is for the interest for the community. And I know that that includes a lot of different dimensions, and I want to assure you that were we to move forward, all of those details and all of those concerns are going to be fully vetted in public so that we can talk about them and talk about them again and likely talk about them again. So thank you for, I didn't mean to go that long, but thank you for indulging me with that time, Madam Mayor. Now I think I turn it over to Linda Herman, our consultant, who's going to do with you her slideshow telling you about the feasibility study the subcommittee has received.
We turn lights down, maybe?
Good.
Great, thank you.